Hello, I'm Kerry Shamblin, and I practice jyotisha, also known as Vedic Astrology. I have been offering a monthly forecast since 1999 where I track how the planets are moving through the sky and how they may be affecting our life on Earth. I also work directly with others through counseling, teaching, and mentoring. Thank you for tuning in to the March 2025 Vedic Astrology forecast. Spring of 2025 will bring sign changes for the outer planets, including Saturn, Jupiter, and the nodes of the moon, kicked off by a pair of eclipses this month in March. It's time to buckle up for a few months of substantial shifting. Let's start out with a summary from the 9 planets. First, the Sun. The Sun moves through the late degrees of Aquarius in March, creating friction with Saturn, making a conjunction on March 11th. Then the Sun moves into Pisces on March 14th, entering into the eclipse zone. There will be a partial solar eclipse on March 29th as the Moon and Sun join Rahu and the retrograde pairing of Venus and Mercury. Once again, buckle up. The moon waxes through early March, phasing into fullness on March 14th in the last degree of Leo, close enough to Ketu for a total lunar eclipse. Close those eyes and look within. During the last 2 weeks of March, the moon wanes and joins the sun in Pisces, resulting in that partial solar eclipse on March 29th, which could signal a hard end and abrupt beginnings. Mars has recovered direct motion and is regaining power and strength as he moves direct through Gemini for all of March. The signs of Virgo, Sagittarius, and Capricorn could benefit from this focused and ready stance of our internal warrior. When food and shelter are threatened, Mars awakens. Mercury has been sent to the front lines to cover the big story. In the midst of confrontations and revelations, Mercury launches into a retrograde cycle in Pisces from March 15th through April 7th. Use this unstable disruption as the base camp for observation and analysis with an eye for reinvention. It will be essential to remain flexible enough to balance in the midst of big waves. This may not be a time for forward motion due to the need for further edits. Jupiter moves through the late degrees of Taurus in March and April, making a fantastic connection with Venus due to her transit through Jupiter's own Pisces. Tune into practical wisdom. Stay with the rhythm of nature and remain grounded in simple truths and authentic connections that require little effort. With much happening outside of your control, fall back on the golden thread of knowledge that you have braided into your very soul. Venus has been offering improvements since entering exaltation in Pisces, but this could send us on a twisted path from March 1st through April 12th when Venus moves retrograde. Think of this time as an opportunity to rewrite and recreate while no one is watching. With so much other interference on stage, our desires and inspiration are sponging up new juice on the flip side, privately informing our next steps. Saturn. March sees Saturn creeping slowly toward the doorway between Aquarius and Pisces, finally reaching that threshold on March 29th when he enters Jupiter's watery shores until February of 2028. Time to finish that homework, learn your lessons, and let go of what impedes your forward motion. Rahu, the north node of the moon. Rahu, springs into action on March 29th as the sun and moon group up near him for a partial solar eclipse at the new moon. This seems like a huge turning point, with an eclipse followed immediately by Saturn pushing onto the scene, which sets up a conjunction of Saturn and Rahu through May, creating some stormy weather. Ketu. Ketu's shadow falls on the full moon of March 14th, giving us a total lunar eclipse and kicking off a slate of upcoming planetary shifts that click by through May. If you can identify the blockage patterns at this time, you will be able to solve those problems and change course in order to resume your progress. If solutions are elusive, then turn the puzzle around. For an in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please keep listening to the full planetary forecast. Venus retrograde in Pisces from March 1st through April 12th. Venus will be spending a substantial amount of time in her exaltation sign of Pisces in 2025, from January 27th to May 31st, 2025. This also creates an exchange of signs with Jupiter, who is bouncing through Venus's Earth sign, Taurus, through May 14th. Jupiter and Venus are known as the great benefic planets, representing the teachers, bestowing upon us wisdom as to how to navigate and honor our natural and social environments. With this powerful exchange of signs between two positive and helpful planets, underpinning the upcoming slate of our outer planet shifts, we have a set of powerful tools that will be key as we make our way through changes that may come at a quick pace, accompanied with unexpected developments. Venus governs our human desire for connection with other earthlings, as well as with Earth herself. The water sign of Jupiter, Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, is the main stage for many of the upcoming planetary events, and having Venus present to help keep things flowing with compassion, beauty, art, and love is a benefit for all of us. With Jupiter, the positive, growth-oriented planet who guides us toward our purpose, finishing up his one-year transit through Taurus, both planets are bolstered to support and guide as we weather the upcoming outer planet shifts. Planets changing signs is not inherently good or bad, but we all know that our contents can shift during flights and that transitions are inherently unstable. Knowing this, we prepare for a time of temporary instability, looking for ways to make being off the ground a positive experience. Find the openings and look for unimaginable side effects that actually become part of the solution. This tight weave created by Venus and Jupiter in the signs of Pisces and Taurus will prevail through mid-May. When Venus begins a retrograde phase on March 1st, we may feel a slight disturbance in the force that requires some recalibration. Retrograde motion for Venus in this situation could result in feeling of pulling back from something or someone. It may feel as if a connection is disrupted, revealing deeper feelings and hidden weaknesses. Find gratitude for the truth, even when it hurts, and then sit with it compassionately before lurching forward reactively. These revelations may not be deal breakers, but actions taken in panic could be. This retrograde phase of Venus will last until April 12th, and during this trip to the underworld, we lose sight of Venus in the evening sky. Venus then pops out on the other side of the sun's position in the zodiac in late April, when we will begin to see Venus rising before the sun, coming into morning star phase through the end of 2025. The astronomy of the dance between Sun and Venus shows the inferior conjunction on March 22nd, when Venus races between the Earth and the Sun. Within a month, we will begin to witness Venus in the eastern morning sky through the summer and fall. Venus then begins to rush toward the Sun again, coming into superior conjunction on January 6th, 2026, when Venus passes behind the Sun, re-emerging as evening star in February of 2026. Venus retrograde through the upcoming eclipse pairing and Saturn changing signs to Pisces will assist us in letting go of what truly is not supporting future growth. We will be liberated from holding on due to nostalgia or deep fear of loss. Venus rules relationships. Rather than allowing the fear of losing a partner to creep in, go bigger and see that what is actually being lost is an old and defunct way of relating. Join with your partners and friends and community, family members, and work through outdated and harmful features of how you are connecting, with the intention of growing forward into healthier relationships and support systems. Saturn and Sun conjunction on March 11th. The Sun begins March by moving through the latter degrees of Aquarius, which means that the annual summit meeting with Saturn awaits us all. The Sun and Saturn have an interesting relationship, flavored both by familial bonds and enemy status. Sun is the captain of team individuality, and Saturn is the captain of team collective. Their interaction generally brings forward themes of individual preference versus community requirement. This will be the last summit meeting for a couple of decades, where Saturn presides over his own territory, making him strong to act, to challenge the sometimes selfish demands of individuality. As Venus retrograde begins to gel, and the Sun moves toward Rahu and the impending eclipse experiences, it is a great time to step back and take stock of your own personal assertions or deficits. Make some practical decisions about what must change regarding your approach to personal agendas and or personal sacrifices in the face of group needs. There will be a full moon, total lunar eclipse, at 30 degrees of Leo in the nakshatra Uttara Falguni on March 13th to 14th. As the Sun moves past Saturn, the Moon moves into a tight opposition with the Sun, creating the setup for the full moon of March, near enough to the nodal axis to furnish a total lunar eclipse as March 13th becomes March 14th. The Sun will be at 29 degrees 44 minutes Aquarius in the nakshatra of Purvabhadra, and the Moon opposes at 29 degrees 44 minutes Leo in the nakshatra of Uttara Falguni. Within an hour, the Moon moves into Virgo, pushing past the eclipse causer Ketu, and within about 8 hours, the Sun pushes into Pisces, running up on Rahu. This is again a tipping point full moon, as we've been experiencing for the past few months. And this time, we've got the eclipse energy as well, indicating that we all may feel the rock and roll of Rahu and Ketu waking up in mid-March. The year of the dragon has become the year of the snake, both of which echo the transformation energy of Rahu and Ketu and the play of light and shadow that they indicate. Ketu and the Moon will be drawing our attention to the borderlands between the Sun's fire sign Leo and Mercury's earth sign Virgo. The nakshatra Uttara Falguni spans between these two signs, bringing the creative fire of the Sun to fertile ground of the earth. The deity Bhaga presides over this sector of space, representing the accumulation of wealth that supports the growth of human families and tribes. Impactive with this eclipse is the borderline tipping point feeling due to the degree of the Moon lying on the transition point between Leo and Virgo, but within the span of Uttarabhadra Nakshatra. This is the point where the rubber hits the road. The honeymoon is over, and we have to be practical about how to translate the gifts of nature into sustenance for all. Since the concept of eclipse, especially when caused by Ketu, is based on blockage of light and diversion of energy, we may conclude that this eclipse coincides with the revelation that the wealth symbolized by the limitless generosity of the sun, who is the ruler of Uttara Falguni, has been diverted or blocked from reaching the teeming mass of life on Earth that relies on this light for support. Opposite the moon shadow in Virgo, we have a serious grouping of planets in the sign of Pisces, including Rahu, Mercury, who is the ruler of Virgo, and retrograde Venus, Los Tres Amigos, the three friends. That is quite a bit of churning in the final sign of the zodiac. Understand that the turbulence being experienced now is assisting us in wrenching free of old formats that are clinging to imbalanced systems. It may be time to mention that along with the combined energy of Rahu, retrograde Venus, and Mercury in the stars of Pisces, we also see Neptune, who is currently presiding like Poseidon in the nakshatra of Uttarabhadra, and Saturn, reminding us of the energy at the depths of our foundations where we find our true strength as the waters of life continually move around us. Saturn is the ruler of Uttarabhadra nakshatra. What do you want? Who are your people? And how are you going to make it happen or keep it in place? When the world is turning and changing around you, let your own heart anchor you in time and space. The Sun transits Pisces March 14th through April 13th. Less than half a day after the eclipse moment, the Sun pushes away from Saturn and toward Rahu, who will be the shadow supplier for the solar eclipse at the new moon on March 29th. From March 14th through April 13th, the great Sun passes through the stars of Pisces, the designated territory of Jupiter, currently bound into the equation due to his exchange of signs with Venus. Pisces, the watery final sign of the zodiac, expresses the concept of universality, requiring a broad perspective that can view the big picture of past, present, and future that are the result of the relentless passage of time. We see resolution, dissolution, and evolution in Pisces, the flow of life that recycles the detritus of the flood into the fertile fields of the future. In the context of the upcoming outer planet shifts, the Sun, as natural leader of the planets, brings our attention to the need for letting go of what has passed, even the good parts of it. As with time, the Sun moves steadily forward, daily pushing each of us on our evolutionary journey. Let the sun shine in. Look under the covers, face the facts, and clean the closets. When the Sun moves into Aries on April 13th for a month in his sign of exaltation, we should be ready to move forward with new campaigns. The creative force of the Sun moves into Aries as the creative flow of Venus resumes direct motion in Pisces, putting the two creators in exaltation from mid-April to mid-May. Start planning now. Reorganize your studio, your platform, and your materials. The positive creative forces will play a helpful role in the upcoming months. Mercury is retrograde in Pisces from March 15th through April 7th. With the mixer already turned on and whirling, Mercury increases the speed with a retrograde cycle from March 15th through April 7th. Mercury begins the review period at 16 degrees Pisces, very near his bestie Venus, retrograde at 13 degrees Pisces. Venus and Mercury, both retrograde in tandem, will look like a couple of synchronized swimmers attempting a routine in the midst of naval operations in the high seas. Mercury's retrograde period is nestled in the boundaries of Venus's retrograde period, both in the sense of space and time. With Venus and Mercury as ever supportive friends, we are invited to curl into our ways of connecting and communication in order to leave behind dysfunctional old patterns. This is a cocoon moment where we transform the old and dream of the future flights in flowered fields. Retrograde Mercury comes very close to retrograde Venus, but never quite catches up. When Mercury resumes direct motion on April 7th, it is amidst a remarkable conjunction of the Team Saturn planets within the early degrees of Pisces. We will see Saturn, Mercury, Venus, and Rahu all placed in the fourth pada of Purvabhadra Nakshatra. This is early April. Venus alone that day remains retrograde and winning a war with Saturn. Stay tuned for more coverage of this gathering. Use this strong Mercury retrograde within a Venus retrograde period for serious editing, reconnecting with Source, and set changing. This is a big time backstage moment. The negative facets of your Venus and Mercury are ready for a costume change. Goodbye people pleasing and crafty communication. Hello authentic connection and balanced transactions. We see a new moon partial solar eclipse in Pisces, Uttarabhadra on March 29th. As Mercury, Venus, and Rahu stir the pot during the last 2 weeks of March, the waning moon moves toward that cluster in Pisces, eventually settling into the monthly conjunction with the sun at 15 degrees Pisces in the last pada of Uttarabhadra Nakshatra. This new moon will be 11 degrees away from the Rahu-Ketu axis, making this only a partial solar eclipse. After the full moon eclipse, with the moon in the sun's nakshatra of Uttara Falguni on March 14th, the waning moon moves through the quiet half of the zodiac. By March 26th, we see the moon entering Aquarius and approaching Saturn, who acts as the temporary gatekeeper for the pileup in Pisces. As we all approach this end-of-month eclipse, while simultaneously feeling the drain of the waning moon and also the apprehension of what is to come, let's make the intention to remain connected to one another, to our communities, to our closest people, to ourselves and our practices. Connection, flexibility, resilience, and creativity will be our allies through the upcoming months. Uttarabhadra Nakshatra will be the backdrop for the sun and moon's joining, bringing in a little Saturn energy, as he is the planetary lord, and mixing it with the influence of Ahirbudnya, the atmospheric serpent that brings rains, creating a structure for growth as the plants who benefit create stability. Did someone mention Neptune? He and Mercury will both be nearby, also in Uttarabhadra. With the intensity of eclipse bringing our attention to Uttarabhadra at this time, understand that the directive of this nakshatra has to do with finding a way to weave together structure, growth, and creative energy in order to create stability. While the world turns and churns completely out of our immediate control, we are being asked to root down, find our structure, and create new avenues for growth. A new moon with eclipse energy and the added pepper of Saturn's influence underneath it all could feel as if we've reached a point of overwhelm or exhaustion. Holding the line takes determination. Remaining detached enough to let go when the time comes is an intense practice. The practice and discipline that you have cultivated are for moments like this, when in the midst of darkness, in smoky confusion, we are tasked with knowing what we want and moving toward those things, even though. Saturn transits Pisces, from March 29th, 2025 through February 23rd, 2028. Hours after the eclipse, the moon begins to wax and shifts into Revati Nakshatra, shortly after which the great Saturn deliberately steps into Pisces on March 29th. This day also happens to be a Saturday, appropriate for Saturn's big day of 2025. Saturn will move slowly through Pisces from March 29th, 2025 through February 23rd of 2028, making his time in Jupiter's watery sign almost 3 years long, which is typical for Saturn's transit through one sign. As we try to understand how this long transit may affect us individually and collectively, let's account for Saturn's last tour through Pisces, which gave us a preview from June to August 1995, with the bulk of that transit from February 16th, 1996 through April 16th, 1998. Saturn's detachment and determination, while in the universal and dispersed environment of Pisces, could feel hardworking and purposeful. What areas of your life need a spell of humble, responsible service? Where do you want to invest in the long haul? Let Saturn be your guide, getting you to stick to your routine and plan out the next long game. Through Saturn's aspects, 3 other signs will receive his practical and contractive influences. First, Taurus, Venus's earth sign, and the second sign of the zodiac that brings us farm-fresh food, familial support, and earthly delights. Second, Virgo, Mercury's earth sign, and the 6th sign of the zodiac that brings us harvest time, food production, applied medicine, and practical skill sets. Third will be through Saturn's 10th aspect, all business, to the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the fire sign of Jupiter, the 9th sign of the zodiac, associated with higher knowledge, positive growth, purpose, and direction. Saturn's transits can feel like pressure, sculpting, obstruction, slowing, or frozen energy. Saturn's practical approach to the facts of life, including old age, disease, and life's transitory nature, can sometimes be hard to handle. Maintaining a humble attitude and understanding that all life forms have an equal right to Mother Earth's bounty, is helpful. For the signs of Pisces, Taurus, Virgo, and Sagittarius, and the corresponding house meaning for your individual chart, it is a great time to understand this incoming influence. Resistance is futile, but surrender, when applied with grace, can be rewarding. Saturn demands that the collective be considered in all major decisions. Saturn understands that the basis of individual experience is crucial to creating a vibrant and resilient ecosystem that supports the collective, but never at the expense of the collective. When it is difficult to say no, it is generally because we wish to spare the other party of some kind of disappointment. Avoiding the no is accepting that disappointment yourself, which must be digested by someone. Saturn reminds us that reality cannot be avoided, that our time is limited, and that our actions and intentions actually count. The good news is that once we fall into acceptance of this guidance, surrendering to the monotony of routine, it turns out that the slower cadence of life becomes the most stable and nourishing. Saturn's discipline and wisdom of the ages keeps us ticking along, even when we can't see the path ahead. Take care of yourself, take care of other people, and watch the ripple effect of support. Here are headlines for April 2025. We will have a Saturn and Rahu conjunction during April and May. Mars will transit Cancer from April 2nd through June 6th. Mercury goes direct at 3 degrees Pisces on April 7th. Then we have a full moon in Virgo at 30 degrees on April 12th. Venus assumes direct motion in Pisces on April 12th also. Sun moves to Aries from April 13th through May 14th. And then we have a new moon at 14 degrees Aries, April 27th. Thank you so much for listening. Check in again for April. Take care. Thank you for listening to this presentation. If you are interested in following my work, look for Kerry Shamblin Astrology on YouTube, Spotify, Patreon, Facebook, and Instagram. My monthly forecast is published in written and audio format on my website, planetaryinfluence.com, where you can join my email list or book a one-on-one session with me. My goal is to light your path toward a joyful and liberated life experience.